This is tween, an explanation of a class that I made for my class. Essentially how it works is sometimes you want to be able to code or dictate at what point in the timeline an object goes in, or control an animation that's tweened on the timeline with code. So to do that, I made a little class to do that, and this is how it works. First thing I have is an animation. What's cool about this is that you can do, and I'm sure there's other classes out there, but the tween light that I use and others use only lets me do a linear in a line or in a diagonal line, and it's awesome. But you have to know some crazy math to do some nonlinear animation. And so if you set it up on the timeline and use a guide to dictate that motion, you can use this class to tell this timeline to go to different spots. First thing you'll need to do is make sure you have the classes in the right spot. This class is run and housed in my font stock list of classes that I've gathered or developed. So here's my source file, and in COM there's my font stock class, and it's under animation, and it's called tween. In the timeline you'll need to set up frame labels to the different phases that you want to stop to, or tell the code to tell that animation to go to that section. So I've done it with the frame label phase, but it can be any labeling system you want to put. The class doesn't allow, say, you just giving it a number. It only does frame labels. I haven't added that functionality yet. So there's phase 2, and notice it ends up there where I would want it to end up if I clicked a button. There's phase 3, and then phase 4. So those are all laid out via frame labels. So you'll need to set up frame labels, set up the animation, and then we'll use the class to tell that timeline to go to different frame labels. Now that tween is set up and I've got frame labels to go to, I want to be able to code these buttons to go to each section. And hopefully you can see the beauty is that I can be in phase 1 and tween all the way to phase 4 without having to worry about these steps. I can go in reverse, etc. And that's just not something that you can do naturally on the timeline. I've got a button here called phase 2. Let's go ahead and make phase 2 happen here. So that's called phase 2 MC. I've got the object, got the listener associated with it. Just unclick, trigger the phase 2 method that I've created down here. First thing I want to do is import the class. So import, should be in your COM folder, font stock class. It's under the animation category, tween. Once that's done, it's a static class, and it works very much like tween light, tween, then you say dot, and there's 2 functions here, go and stop. So any animation that you put into motion could also be stopped by saying tween stop, and then passing the movie clip that you want to stop. But currently we're going to say go, and if you look at once to know the movie clip, so the movie clip is called Dots and Lines MC. So Dots and Lines MC. Wants to know what frame level you go to. So phase 2. Wants to know how long you want it to take in seconds. So we'll say 1 second. And then there's an optional variables that get passed in this section here. Even if you don't want to pass optional variables, you're still required to have that there. So what to tween, what frame label inside that tween to go to, how long, and optional variables. Oh, I forgot to stop it, so that timeline needs to be stopped. I can do that here. Dot and lines stop. Or I could have put it in its timeline. That works as well. So it's stopped. And now it should go to phase 2. No problem. So I went ahead and set up phase 4, the phase 4 listener for that last movie clip over there. I want to click that. Fire this phase 4 method. And then do the same class, except I want it to go to phase 4 in 1 second. So I've got phase 2 and then phase 4. So no matter what phase I'm currently located, I can skip to the next one or reverse, which is pretty dope. There's an optional variables. One is easing. That's something that I recommend you go ahead and put in. It's going to make your animations look sweeter. So, gotta import that class. It's in the fonts.class class called easing. The only one I have had time to create is called quad. So, one of the options in here is easing, and then you pass quad, and then you want to tell it whether you want it to ease in, you want it to ease in and out, or you want it to ease out. So I like easing in and out. It'll want you to put these little things in there, but it won't accept those. So it's just the beginning function and ease in and ease out. Let's see what that looks like. So at least in the completed example, you should notice that it speeds up and slows down, which looks a lot better. Okay, so don't forget to ease. It's going to look a lot better. So the last optional variable that you'll most likely want to use is an onComplete function. After you get done with a phase, you most likely will want something to happen. You'll want something loaded, something to appear on the screen, etc. You know, as fun as this is, we probably want some information to pop up or something to happen. So you'll need to tell it, once it's done, you want this thing to happen. So you just use the onComplete variable, onComplete, and then you make your own method to fire once that's done. So we'll call this phase 4 complete. It can be called anything you like. Just do a little copying and pasting here. Private function phase 4 complete. There's no arguments that go in there. Okay, so now when this is done, this will be fired. On this example, inside the tween, I've got this little indicator dot that has an animation inside it. So let's just go ahead and tell that to blink once the animation's done. So that movie clip's called Indicator MC, and it's inside dots and lines MC. So you got to provide that path from the main timeline. Dots and lines MC dot. I like to copy and paste so I don't mistype it. Indicator, because indicator's inside dots and lines, and the code is from the reference of the main timeline to and play, and I want it to play that blink frame label. So once phase 4 is complete with its animation, it'll play that blink animation. Let's see if it works. So I'm in phase 2, and I go to phase 4, and it should see a blink, which I did. I don't know if you will, but completed example should. So hopefully you can see that that's pretty awesome that you can do that. One final note. The animations, if you want to use this class, which you should only use it if you need to tween something in a non-linear fashion, like in a circle or in a swoop or something like that, or in a figure eight. Elsewise, just use tween light because it's much better and it's going to be more efficient. If you use this, you want to set up your tweens fairly long, maybe 2-3 times as long as you naturally would, because you're really not telling it how fast to go. Notice it moves very, very slowly. And you do that because now it has all that data to access. The class just tells it to go to and stop a certain frame over and over again. And the more there are, the more options it has to go to. So it gives it time and data to work with when it's easing, for example. If it's not long, it's going to look choppy. So I've just made mine pretty long, much longer than I naturally would. Of course, the more data that has, the more memory intensive it's going to be. So use wisely, but it should work. So happy tweening. See you next time.